I'm Nicole Hume, and I'm the high school chemistry teacher at Faith Christian School. I started teaching chemistry in 1997 at Purdue, and then began teaching chemistry at Faith Christian School in 2005.
My name is Lindsay Noonan. I'm a 7th grade teacher at Tecumseh Junior High School, and I also do curriculum work with Equitable Education Solutions in Crawfordsville.
My name is Jonathan Lambeth, and I've been a high school science teacher. I have a master's degree in chemistry education. I also have a master's in educational administration. I've had the privilege also of being an elementary principal and getting to work with teachers who are trying to teach science classes and support their efforts.
Yeah, well, science equipment is really expensive. Models in particular are incredibly expensive. They're often fragile, and so students break them. It's hard sometimes to have enough.
Well, I work at a larger school, so a lot of the decisions about what resources teachers have, get made at the higher level. So a lot of times, resources will just show up in my classroom. Not saying they're bad, but I didn't have a voice. I didn't get to pick what my grade level uses or how much it costs or where it came from. I have to chip in a lot from my own pocket. If I want a classroom set of something, the school budget only goes so far. A lot of times I end up spending my own money just to give a valuable learning experience for my students. Schools right now are spending all their money on technology, which is great. So they think once you have those devices in the classroom, everything you should just be on those. Whereas there's a lot of things that help students learn. Just getting your hands on models and things kids can interact with are really beneficial, but we don't necessarily have the budget for those anymore.
As a school administrator, I'm always caught between wanting to provide more for the teachers that they want to use, and yet we're strapped sometimes. So I know teachers are constantly looking for cheap things that they can acquire and oftentimes have to pay for themselves to provide those kinds of experiences for kids.
So he sells this for a few dollars? Oh, wow. I mean, to buy something like this from one of the chemical supply companies, I would think you might spend more than $50, maybe even more.
So I work with a lot of students who have learning disabilities. They're called IEPs. And if you are having them sit through a lecture, a science lecture or a math lecture, a lot of times they are just trying to focus on what they are writing down in their notes, or even just understanding what the teacher is saying, that they're not transferring this learning whatsoever to their brains. So I'm just imagining giving something like this to one of my kids with an IEP, just letting them interact with it and just truly understand the statistics. I think this can make a huge difference for students who just don't learn in the traditional method.
Well, that's fantastic, yeah. I've used some DNA models in the past that were, frankly, a lot less detailed, and the cost would have been such that I just didn't really get very many, so yeah, this is pretty cool. And these are even labeled as to the atoms. That's great.
Oh, that's cool. Can I play with it? Oh, cool. So then if a kid loses one, you just can print the piece that's missing? Oh, that's really neat. That's cool. You can even see the DNA in the nucleus.
I'm even just thinking how cross-curricular this could be. Teaching students in robotics classes to print these models, they're giving them to the science classes. I think that's just a huge way to teach just cooperation within the school. Kids don't understand, what the cell does. It just is this invisible thing that teachers talk about. You can show videos, you can show them PowerPoint slideshows, but it's hard for students to just truly understand what those cells are doing. So if there's something like this where they can, pull out the different pieces, interact with it, truly understand how it all works together, that's not something they're just going to know for a test. This is actually a skill that they're learning and they're going to keep with them.
Okay, so DNA molecules are, they're super expensive. We have one. Well, we've been able to buy one DNA model. We have a really hard time letting the students touch it because we paid so much money for it. And if a student loses a piece to it, then the DNA is no longer complete, and we can't use it to show kids. And so we're the only ones as teachers that end up having our hands on the DNA molecules. So it would be really hard for me to take our DNA molecule and spread it out over the table and let students play with it and know that it would be okay if I didn't get all the pieces back. I really do think that's great. I really think that's great.
I have pretty big class sizes, so just thinking of having something like this for every single small group that I split my students into, letting them just explore with it instead of just watching the teacher at the front of the room with it. I just think that's amazing, and that would be so helpful. And kids are going to break things. It's going to happen. Even the most careful student will definitely break things. So just knowing you can print another piece, not buy another expensive model, I think this is amazing.
Oh yeah, if you could spend a few $100s on a 3D printer and then be able to print classroom sets of models, like you could literally pay for that printer after the first set of models you print. I mean, you guys, like models are really expensive. They're really, really, really expensive.
So one of the big trends in education right now is trying to personalize students' learning. What are things we can do to reach out to every student based on their own unique abilities, their unique talents, the ways that they learn? So, what are things we can do to bring science in a way that, different students can interact with it and learn it? So if you can 3D print things that fit the way each student learns, it's so helpful. Just personalizing that learning, just taking it from something they memorize, they might think about one day and they immediately forget about, to something they actually understand and could actually ignite a true passion for learning in that subject area.